How many miles should we expect to get out of a super shoe before it loses some of its magic? Today, we talk all about the Adios Pro 3 after 300 miles. Hi everybody and welcome to today's video. My name is Matt and this is What Matters to Matt. And on today's video, we are going to be talking all about the Adidas Adios Pro 3 after a little bit over 300 miles in this shoe. Now I have had this shoe for quite a while, and to get the disclaimer out of the way right off the bat, this was a shoe that I purchased with my own money. It was about a year and a half ago. I was looking for a shoe to purchase to run a marathon in, and I was able to find this for 50% off on a Canadian website. So I thought, even if it wasn't something that I was going to run races in, it would be a good investment. Turns out that I did run a marathon in this shoe, and at the time I was able to run about a 30-minute PB in that marathon. Now I'd like to think that my training and my grit during the race had mostly to do with me being able to run that PR, but the shoe didn't hurt. Didn't hurt, at least getting that PR. But we'll get into some of my likes a little bit later when we talk about just how this shoe has felt on my foot over time and some of the adjustments that I've had to make. But we are going to talk about the upper, the midsole, and the outsole, and we're going to talk about the durability of the shoe. We're going to talk about where it fits into my shoe rotation right now. And ultimately, I'm going to let you know whether I think the Adios Pro 3 would be a good investment at this point in time. The Adios Pro 4 is coming out very, very soon. I was not one of the lucky ones to get that shoe early, to have it on my feet, but I'm excited to do that because when we get into a couple of my gripes or dislikes with this shoe, I think they may have addressed it with that one. All that out of the way, let's dive into the Adidas Adios Pro 3. So before we dive into my likes and dislikes, let's talk about how I've been using this so far. And it has worked its way into my rotation as a workout shoe, something that I can take for intervals, something that I can take for long runs, whether those are easy long runs to runs that have some sort of marathon pace or even faster paces in them. But it hasn't been a shoe that I've used so much for races. I just felt like it didn't have quite the pop, quite the snap, quite the aggressiveness as some other super shoes out there. And it was a little bit more of a cruiser. But when it came to running workouts, it just felt like a solid shoe that could do all of the things that you needed it to do to get you through those workouts and really feel protective, but not feel too aggressive or out of place when you're running easy paces. Very few workouts do you actually go into them full bore right off the bat. You usually got some warm-up miles. You've usually got some breaks in between those hard efforts. Usually got some easy cool-down miles at the end. And rather than switching out a shoe, I like to get out there in one shoe and run the whole workout in it. And this felt comfortable at all paces for me, and it's been very protective and an absolute tank. So that's where it's fit into my rotation. And I also noticed that over time, the shoe really didn't feel like it was losing a whole lot of pop. It just kept doing what I expected of it every time I reached for it. There were no surprises. It just got the job done. So it was fitting into my rotation as that workout shoe. Long run, intervals, didn't really matter. If I thought I was putting a hard effort in, I'd reach for this shoe. That's been more recent because I did shelve it for a while, but that's how we've been racking up the miles in the Adios Pro 3 lately. It might be a little bit obvious, but my number one like in the shoe is its durability. And if we just go down through, the upper looks almost new. There's no fraying, no marks, nothing that would indicate that it's going to wear anytime soon. The midsole, somehow, the Light Strike Pro that they put in the Adios Pro 3 has gotten better over time. Now, I'm not saying that it needed a huge break-in period. I only took it on a couple of harder, longer workouts before I actually ran my marathon. But somehow, after 300 miles, to my foot, it feels just as good as it did the first time that I ran in that shoe. It's changed. It feels a little bit softer, maybe a little bit more pliable, but it feels just as good as far as wanting to run those hard efforts, not quite as dense. So I'm loving the Light Strike Pro, and I think we're going to get so many more miles out of it. And the outsole on this. This was one of the things when I first took this out of the box that I was a little bit concerned about, because even though it is Continental rubber and that has such a good reputation for wear and tear, it's so thin on the bottom of this shoe. They've got good coverage. There's not a lot of exposed midsole here, And by the way, the midsole hasn't gotten chewed up, even though I've run pretty much every surface possible in this. But the rubber is so thin, I was thinking that was going to wear through quicker than any other part of the shoe. That was going to be what the issue was, even though it was Continental. And I haven't had that problem at all. It's holding up really well. An interesting thing that does happen, and you're probably not going to see this on camera, Andy Rayner, the Forest of Dean runner, did a, I think probably 500-mile review on this shoe. And you could see where those energy rods run, there's just some indents starting to happen. So that's the first chink in the armor, if anything, with this that I've seen so far. But durability, definitely number one like so far. So versatility definitely has to be my number two like, and I know I touched on it earlier, but you're able to run so many different paces in this shoe. The fact that it's not overly aggressive or as aggressive as some other super shoes out there doesn't feel uncomfortable when you're trying to run a little bit slower. Whether you're running easy, you're running hard, doesn't really matter. This shoe can handle it. At least it can handle it for me. I think that's one of the reasons why I like that Light Strike Pro so much after 300 miles, because it has softened up a little bit and felt even more comfortable running in between those hard efforts during the workouts. So it became a really, really good workout shoe that you could put on at the beginning of the workout. You didn't have to swap out your shoes. This would do it all for me. So number two for me is definitely the versatility. I can throw this on, long, easy run, hard effort, doesn't really, really matter. So we've got durability, we've got versatility, and the third one honestly has to be the look of the shoe. That's my number three like somehow, and I know this is certainly probably the most subjective thing that I can bring up, but I really like the looks of Adidas running shoes. Somehow they're able to keep that classic look, those three stripes Adidas, but give it a modern twist and really make it feel like a modern day racing shoe. And the Adidas Adios Pro 3 has been out for so long. They have put out so many different colorways of this shoe that I am confident that if you like the shape, if you like the angles, if you like how the form of the shoe is, you're going to be able to find a color to match any outfit you want. There's been so many drops of this shoe. Yeah, the look. Now those are definitely sort of the three big likes that I wanted to highlight, but there are a number of different things that have me reaching for the Pro 3 over and over again, and one of them is that upper is quite breathable. I found that very comfortable throughout the warm weather when I was running in this and doing those big workouts. Also those energy rods on the bottom of this instead of a carbon plate. Now to me, when I'm running in this, I feel like those energy rods allow my foot to do its own thing every once in a while, and it's not being driven or manipulated so much as I get out of a stiffer carbon plate. So it really, really feels nice to be out there on the workouts and not having the shoe doing all the work or telling me how I should be running. And that Light Strike Pro, back to the Light Strike Pro, when I run in this, for whatever reason, more than I think any other super shoe that I've run in, I run those big workouts, and the next day I can tell I'd use this shoe. It seems to protect me more than other super shoes on the market when I'm doing those hard efforts, and I feel like I'm able to recover just a little bit quicker. Don't know what sort of magic Adidas has put into this midsole, but Light Strike Pro is something pretty special to run in. So clearly it can't be all positives when it comes to any running shoe. There's always a couple of things when you look at it that you might want to tweak. There's been a couple of shoes that have come really close, but the Adios Pro 3 is no different. There are a couple of things that I would like to see change in the new one that I think they've addressed with the Pro 4. And the first one, you probably, if you watch lots of shoe review videos, you know exactly where I'm going with this. It's that upper, and it's the eyelet chain, and it's right up here near the front where these loops are. Underneath here, and I can't get a good shot to show you, but there's some extra fabric under there that kind of irritates the top of the foot and is a little bit of a pressure point. And when I ran the marathon, after I got done that marathon and I took my left shoe off, I was missing a lot of skin on right over my big toe. And it was from that pressure point. Now, since then, when I've been running the shoe and I spent some time trying to dial in the upper because I liked the feel of the shoe overall so much, I really wanted to keep running it. And I found that as long as I kept the forefoot fairly loose and I really tightened down in the midfoot, my foot didn't go anywhere and it actually felt quite comfortable. I lost that problem with the rubbing up front, and my toes actually had a lot of room to splay, lots of wiggle room for those long, hard efforts, and it just got really comfortable. But on occasion when I'm out there on a run and I get into my warm-up and I feel like maybe my shoe is a little bit too loose, I do that thing where I stop, retie my shoe, and really kind of ratchet it down and make the mistake of ratcheting down the front or tightening this up a little bit too much. So number one problem issue that I was kind of able to solve, that I really, really hope they get rid of in the Adios Pro 4, that it looks like they did, is that eyelet chain and the problems that we had up here. Sounds like the 4 is better, something they could fix. So number 2 in the dislikes, and I have a hard time even bringing this up because so many people talk about how good Continental rubber is, and I talked about it towards the first of this video, how good the Continental rubber is and how good the wear is on this shoe. And when I bought this, I thought the grip, given the amount of rubber that's here, was phenomenal. But what I've noticed over the last few runs, and what I have a little bit of a concern with as we run into the fall and winter months here in Eastern Canada, is just how smooth that outsole has been and has gotten over time, because there's very little traction on this. They've got this pattern that they have these cutouts, but there's very little traction here. So it's very smooth. And when I was out running with those fall leaves and the wet, it was a little bit slick. A lot of super shoes aren't great in those kind of conditions, so maybe that's an unfair assessment, but it was a little slick. And the other time, last week, when weather was just pretty bad outside, I did try to run it was about a 20-kilometer workout in this shoe, so 12-ish miles, and it had lots of mile intervals and 200-meter reps, and it got a little bit slick. As I started to sweat and got a little bit of that sweat on the treadmill belt, it started to slip just a little bit. So number 2 for me is actually that outsole and just how it's starting to get a little bit slick. Hard for me to complain about Continental rubber because of how good it's been, but also she's a little slick. The third dislike, however, is something that I think, again, if you watched a lot of reviews with this shoe or you ran in it yourself, you probably know where I'm going, and it is the tongue. The tongue is so paper thin, and there's no gusset with this tongue. And every time that I do lace this up, it does take me a little bit longer, because when I'm putting my foot in this shoe, the tongue tends to overlap on itself quite a bit. And I don't always feel that if I'm not paying attention when I lace them up. And I get started out on that run, and then the overlap, the double over that I get, kind of creates a little bit of a hot spot, and eventually that starts to get to me. So I have to kind of untie the shoes quite a bit more than I normally would, to make sure that I can kind of get my hand down in there and make sure that the tongue is lying flat over the top of my foot, to make sure that when I do tighten it up, none of that's bunched up anywhere. So more of an inconvenience than anything, but definitely something that I think could be improved. Now, I get it, it's a race tongue, you're trying to save weight wherever you can, but man, a gusset or just a little bit something extra there would really help that out. Lastly, I know I said I was going to tell you whether I think the Adios Pro 3 is worth your hard-earned cash, and you are going to have to figure that one out for yourself. Watch this video over and over and over again. Watch Andy Force of Dean run his video. He does an amazing job at giving his long-term review perspective on the Adios Pro 3. And Kafuzi, if you go back far enough in his videos, he did a long-term review with this shoe as well. So check those out. For me personally, I think it definitely was worth my hard-earned cash, especially at the discount. And with the Adios Pro 4 coming out and going to be made available to everybody, you definitely can expect to see some discounts on this shoe, which Adidas does pretty well with all their shoes on their website. That's it, guys. My name is Matt. Subscribe to the channel if you're currently not subscribed. It helps me out so much. Like this video, comment in the comment section down below. What super shoe has surprised you with just how well it is held up to the test of time and logged tons and tons of miles in. My name is Matt. This has been What Matters to Matt, and ultimately, what matters to me most is my family. I'll see you guys in the next video.
Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.